ground, correct?
Yep.
And versus Mike Perry. I want to talk to you about the submission on the ground. What does it make grappling great again? Is that what I'm hearing?
We're here to make grappling great again. We got a show this Sunday, believe it or not. Still working on how exactly we're going to pull that off, because I have to tell you, if you're in MMA business, and I'll extend this to grappling, guys, as you well know, sure, you've got production and sure, you've got competitors and competition, but you must understand, you are in the safety and compliance business to the highest of levels. If you cannot take direction from other people and then conform to the rules, the only difference here, the rules keep changing daily, which means every plan that we have to wake up next morning and redo. And I got to tell you, it's been challenging.
So if they tell you that you can't do it, like, is there a law that says you're not allowed to assemble, or are you still looking for a location?
No, we've got everything, and we don't have that law. Now, that could happen. If that does happen, the rug gets pulled out from under us, and we would respect it fully. Right now, Jim, we have a rule. We went from 50 people in a room at a time to 25 to 10, and now we currently sit at 8.
Okay.
Just with the 2 athletes and the referee, there's 3. So now we've pulled the corners. We pulled the announcer. There will be no announcer. We had to pull the cameraman. We are now putting extra cameras in, but locking them in still shots that feed outside to the trailer where the director will attempt to piece this thing together, all live and all on Fight Pass.
That's amazing. And now where's the announcer going to be? Is he going to be outside or in another room?
The announcer will be in yet another trailer, talking in a mic, feeding it straight through. And that was another thing. I mean, you've got to think of everything, but this is hard, guys. We're just now learning. Like, for example, let's put the 2 guys in there with the announcer so they can at least talk to the audience. Then we go, wait a second. We're going to take a microphone and put it under 3 different guys' faces while showing the world. Like, that's not responsible either.
Right.
Let me ask you about the event itself. I want to know what makes it different, the submission on the ground, than these other events, the Eddie Bravo event at EBI and this. I'm not telling you to take a shit on anybody else's event, but I want to know is there a different rule sense? Because I think Al had a different, like, some guys are in the gi, some guys aren't. You tell me about the event a little bit.
Okay, so for the rule sets, we go under the unified rules, which means the EBI rules. Somebody's going to win, somebody's going to lose. I've done a lot of grappling, Matt, and I'll tell you, I've been in over my head and known it. But if I can just beat the clock, I don't have to beat the other guy. I can get a draw and feel good about myself. So we didn't want that to happen. We got to have a winner, we got to have a loser, so we can have official ranking standings and ultimately crown a champion. So we decided to go with that rule set. We happen to take place in a cage. That's just the apparatus that we believe is more spectacular for the fans. And as far as Al's match, by the way, in many ways that was not called correctly. The referee even did come in after the fact to say, Al, I missed this. I missed it, and I can't take it back, and it won't happen again, but here's what happened. And I don't know if you got to see it, but Al was pretty dominant in this match, but they end up in overtime. Unless you get a submission, because there's no points, no matter how dominant you were, you go right back to 0. So Al for sure showed everybody, including Perry in fairness, that Al was the better grappler. But now it becomes a game, Matt. When you get into overtime with EBI rules, it's a game, and there's a lot of strategies. And if the referee breaks a position, which means the clock stops, and ultimately you have to go to riding time, that's going to hurt you. That's what happened.
What is riding time? What does that mean, riding time?
So let's say you start with a guy's back. Everything stopped. One guy goes down. I put the hooks on. I start with your back. Referee says go. The clock starts ticking. Now, if I can finish you, great, I win. But if he gets out, we switch positions. Now he gets his opportunity. If I get out, we now go and see who got out in the least amount of time. So that's where the game and the clock matters. Al went for a submission, which is fair game. The referee didn't realize he was going for a submission, thought that the other guy escaped. Once he says break and the timekeeper braked, we're stuck with that number.
Now, especially with these rules, and I'm not telling you how to run your show, Chael, but holy shit, man, you got to see it. Al, and being in the same room when Al's pulled off the twister, he gets the twister, cat's out of the bag anyway. He was going for it a ton on Mike Perry. But when he goes for he gets the twister way more than he ever gets, I see, rear naked chokes. So it totally made sense what he was doing for me to watch. Because he wasn't ever really trying to play a game. He was really just trying to finish him. Al's like a little pit bull, you know?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, he wanted to make him tap, and he wanted that. So when I saw him going for that, I'm like, all right, he got out of the one. Here he goes again. So he put himself in that position for the ref to stop it. It's like, I'm sure you wanted to take that ref, and do a Superfly snooker or some shit.
Right.
Talk to him.
Matt, I know that position. And Jim, I'm sorry if we're losing you a little bit. But Matt, just to finish.
No, please. It's great.
You've got two parts, right? You got the upper body and you have the lower body. So yeah. Al lets the upper body go, but he's still got the lower body entangled, which means it's fair play. So as he's rotating to a submission, the ref just saw, oh, you lost your seatbelt. I guess we're done here.
But is it?
No,
but just. I'm sorry, but just for the record, is it in the so obviously with banana splits and stretching of the groin, Jimmy, and for making guys tap out that way, calf slice and whatnot from the lower body, it obviously wasn't over. Like just for the future. So
correct.
Okay.
Correct. That is the correct application of the rule. The way you're interpreting the rule is the correct interpretation of the rule.
Okay, no, I mean, listen, you could see, a ref's a rough job anyway, but it's one of those things with those type of matches, it becomes a game, exactly. So if one guy, like that first 5-minute match, if it's an MMA match, it's almost like a 10-8 round because he was on him. Al was like a pit bull, but when Perry's strong, and so when somebody's defensive and he's got, almost doing like an old school Sakuraba, looking for a Kimura when you're looking to lock up and stuff like that. It's not the easiest for a lesser grappler to survive 5 minutes with a better grappler. I mean, you give another 5 minutes, it could be a totally done, or another couple of minutes could be done. But to survive 5 minutes, it's even mounted, whatever it is, back. So it is weird because then when you get to the overtime, you get into a position where the guy did not earn his way to get there. So, I mean, he earned it, I guess, by surviving, but it's not like, man, all right, I'm taking you down, I'm kicking you in an arm lock, now I'm going to finish you. No, you're not. You're skipping all that. You're just starting from there. It's a game, Chael, but
it's a game. No, and everything you're saying is right. And like trying to figure out the perfect way to do it, I think we could have a lot of conversations. But Matt, I'll tell you what does drive me crazy in the world of grappling. Grappling wants to be mainstream. I want it to be mainstream. But Matt, nobody can agree on any rules. You have a show. Every promoter has to create his own rules. It's like some kind of an ego thing. Basketball, you go into any court in the world, you put the ball in the net, you get 2 points. Everybody understands that. Grappling wants to change the rules and then figure out why we can't ever get on Sports Center. We can't get on Sports Center because no one in the hell knows what we're even doing.
What is the reason for it? That different promotions want different rules. Do they think certain things will make it more exciting?
Yes, or they think that they protected it, or they think they want to have ownership with it, or they'll look at grappling and go, okay, here's the flaws with it, and here's what I'm going to change. It usually does come from a good place, but what it really does is create confusion. People just get lost. I mean, you still got things where there's a point system. Okay, great. The IBJJF is some of the originals, and I don't think they should be questioned. But when you go over to Abu Dhabi, which is still looked at as the most spectacular, the Olympics of our sport, if you will, they follow their own rules. And Matt and I have both done Abu Dhabi, and Matt and I both did well in Abu Dhabi, and Matt and I will both tell you there's a couple of problems with the rule set at Abu Dhabi.
Yeah, I mean, it's like you said, when they first started with Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu rules, it was simple enough where it's like, all right, what's better for the street fight? Starting, standing, 2 points, you get it down. The most dominant position, clear the legs, cross-side, better, 3 points. The best position for a street fight was mounted, 4 points, back, both hooks. And it made sense. It made sense, Chael, for that point system, as that could carry you through a real fight, through a IBJJF old school rules tournament, to an Abu Dhabi. That rule set is a good rule set to have for a fight, but because but obviously when it comes now, people get to manipulate the rules where they get a little bit of points and then they start stalling and it changes everything. So then they went into the no points with the Metamorphoses and then, like you said, Chael, a lot of draws, man. So it's like, then at one point, I think they had no time limit whatsoever or some shit, and that didn't go well. Had a couple of matches that went fucking how long, and so it is hard to find that. What's that?
I watched Felipe versus Gordon Ryan. It was the only match of the entire card, and they held it in like a workout room. But it was no time limit. No, somebody taps, and whoever that is the loser. They went 47 minutes. And it ended up making for a fun day. I mean, if you're gonna buy an event and there's only one match, that's a little bit tough way to go. So yeah. I would rather have more time than less time. But to your point, yeah, Matt, we have to come up admitting up front nothing's going to be perfect, but we still have to have rules, and we all got to follow them. There's no other way to crown a champion. How do we truly know who the best in the world is when there's 5 different rule sets and 5 different ranking systems? Come on, that doesn't work.
It's true. No, that is true. I wonder what the rule set that you're using, although exciting, does that show the best grappler?
Sure.
Or does it show the guy?
Fair question.
Or does it show the guy who's great at escapes and fucking, you know what I mean? A guy can survive 5 minutes. All right, man, I'm great at getting out of the back, great at getting out the arm. Let's go, motherfucker.
Yeah. That's a fair question.
What do you think of the judging? I think in Kansas City they're going to do it, and I've been asking a lot of fighters and guys who used to fight. What do you think of the live judging in between rounds, seeing what the score is?
Open scoring. I mean, it's got a lot of thoughts. Listen, this is an experiment, so none of us really know it's going to be a hindsight. I personally kind of like the drama. I like the suspense and finding out. One thing that we don't see in MMA very often is stalling. And if we ever put an athlete in a situation where he realizes I no longer need to beat my opponent, I just need to beat the clock, we're going to start seeing things that happen that we're not going to love. I mean, Floyd Mayweather, by example, Sugar Ray Robinson, by example, those guys don't go forward. They only fight going backward. They fight running away. Well, if two guys both run away, it's not much of a fight to see. And I would just tell you, I think it's an experiment. I tend to cling to the old a little bit more. I kind of like the way it's done. But I do hear why the athletes are saying it, saying, hey, you've got to let me know. And athletes are saying it from more of an exciting, more of an aggressive standpoint. They're saying if I'm behind and I know I need a finish, I'm going to go out and try to get one. That's true. But if the other guy knows all I got to do is run out the clock, I don't know. We'll see. It's an experiment, but I think there's an argument on both sides in fairness.
Yeah, I'm wondering what I would want to know if I fought. Would you want to know the score? Like when you were fighting, would you want to know? Like the drama for the fans, you're right. But when you were fighting, would you want to know, especially if it's a 5-round fight, would you want to know what's happening by, say, round 3 or round 4?
Well, I will offer you this. If I did know, it would change my strategy.
Okay.
It would make me go, okay, I've got to clinch. I've got to push him here. I've just got to stay out of this. He's coming at me like a bull. I got to be a matador for a little bit. Not everybody's mind works that way, but some guys, and you asked me to personalize it, I would use that in my favor, which would be to the displeasure of those watching.
Sure.
I feel it would be anticlimactic. I can't talk, Chael.
It's okay.
Anticlimactic. I feel that, people see, all right, this guy won 4 rounds. Let me get in the parking lot before all these other people, and nobody's listening for the speeches. Let me just after the post-fight speeches. I think it's going to be. I know what I like. I like people feeling something. How about that? Even if they're pissed off. I like the next day at the water cooler, people going, "Do you believe that fucking decision?" It's not a bad thing. I mean, it's good to hear when they announce that fucking when you're waiting and they know what they're going to take away from us. That moment of us waiting, he had to win. No, of course he won. He didn't win, or he won. Of course he. You want that. You want that. I'm telling you, you're not going to know what's gone if you don't.
And guys, I had a conversation with an executive director one time. We just ended up on an airplane next to each other and made conversation for a couple of hours. But I did ask them, hey, why don't we do open scoring? I'm not for open scoring necessarily, but what is the reason why? And they said, you know what? You'd be surprised. It actually doesn't have anything to do with the athletes or the audience. It has to do with human nature of our judges. If we post their scores and the crowd reacts in a negative way, them being a human being is likely to then try to do it the way the crowd wants it for the next round as a way of evening it out. They said we see it all the time. We see a fight going on that's totally normal. The crowd starts to boo. The referee hears the boo, steps in, separates them, and pulls them up. We have too much human nature with our own officials. That's the reason internally we keep it quiet. It has nothing to do with promoters' wishes, athletes' wishes, or the fan in that dramatic. We worry about our referees and officials not being objective.
Right.
That makes the most sense I ever heard. That's should have started with that. That's fucking good, Chael.
I accept that answer too, because Matt, that's a very real thing. We've all seen that. You can start to influence a referee who does have that human element and just wants to be like him. It's a very real thing. It's people judging people.
See it all the time. With them standing them up too soon, breaking them apart from the cage, and I can't stand it. I can't stand it. That give me Keith No Nonsense Peterson, or let the guy.
He really doesn't care what the audience is doing. Keith does not give a fuck.
I mean, they got their code, and they stick to it. They don't get influenced. The son of a pro.
Right. I agree. And Matt, I think that is a little bit you and I talking from the old school, and Jim, you being an original fan, because even when we went to the round system where every 5 minutes we're going to redo this, for some of us, that was a little bit of a problem because we were kind of more into wherever this thing goes, it goes. Nobody gets let up. They have to work their own way up. And I don't know that that was the best system either, but I do remember when the new system went in place, there was a little bit of, hey, wait a minute, that's not as realistic. If this is truly to find out what's most realistic, that's questionable.
Yeah, and I don't know how I'd feel about it if I was fighting, too. I mean, your answer is good that, hey, I would change the way I fought the third round or the fifth round if I knew that all I had to do is kind of stay away a little bit and I had it. So I just hate seeing – I mean, I'm sure everybody hates seeing guys get robbed. And that Jones-Reyes fight annoyed me so much. And there was been a couple of fights. There was 2 in Houston, and there was a couple other ones that just drove me so crazy. I'm like, this guy trained for all this time, and then to get robbed so blatantly of at least a fair decision – or a fair shot by the judge. For someone to see that 49-46. I mean, it's like that's just got to drive you crazy as a fighter.
And nothing happens, by the way. That's what the more frustrating thing is. Nothing happens when some of those scores come in. One of the ones that was most blatant in my own eyes was the night Conor McGregor fought Floyd Mayweather. There was 10 seconds left in the first round before Floyd took a fist and moved it in a forward direction. Floyd openly threw that round away, openly told the media afterwards I was feeling him out, openly said he had a power, he was a little bit weird. 3 out of 3 judges gave that round to Floyd Mayweather. One judge over the course of 9 finished rounds, one judge gave 1 round to Floyd. I sat and watched that fight side by side with Teddy Atlas, who is the most respected mind in American boxing. He gave Conor 4 rounds. The judges were setting up to rob him. Nevada did nothing because it didn't go to that. What's it matter? It didn't go to that. Yeah, but your judges tried to get it to go to that, and they gave every round to Floyd when Floyd himself said, I threw the first round away.
Yeah, really, the boxing, it's what ruined boxing for me. Like, I couldn't watch boxing anymore, and it wasn't necessarily that fight. It might have been Alvarez Triple G, the first fight. I just can't watch boxing anymore because the judging is so bad. I can't enjoy it feeling like at least the guy that won the fight is going to get the decision. I turn me against the sport.
Sure.
Chael, if there's still a problem with this whole Corona thing, do you think it would make sense? It's hard enough to get obviously it's hard to get a fight card going with the reasons that you were just talking about earlier. Do you think it would make sense to have a single fight? I mean, I like we were talking about earlier, myself and Jimmy, with Khabib versus with Tony. I mean, if they had just that fight with no undercard, man, I think it'd still sell. I mean,
100%. Yeah, 100%. And Matt, that theory's been tested one time in the UFC, and you may remember it, but it was Cain Velasquez versus JDS, the debut on Fox. And the bad news was it lasted 61 seconds. But had that lasted 18 or 19 or 20 minutes, it would have been a really great thing. And I'll tell you another way that you could do it. Doing one fight, yes, in today's world where we are so starved for entertainment and we must get conclusion to this division, I think that's the better scenario. I will tell you possibly an even better. Do 2 venues. You could do a venue here and a venue here. For the crowd at home, it's going to look as though they're piped in. You basically make it a co-main and a main situation. That's been done. WrestleMania 2, by example, live on pay-per-view, took place in 3 different venues. But the audience didn't know. It was all controlled in the truck. So they did a couple matches here. They went over to the Pontiac Silverdome. They came back to Safeco Arena. The audience at home gets 6 matches, but each venue actually only had 2. There was a boxing fight. It was the night that De La Hoya fought 2-Pound Forbes, and that was in L.A. Some other promoter was doing a show, same exact time, same exact sport, out of Nevada. So the 2 promoters get together and go, timeout. Make your main event the co-main event. I'll make De La Hoya Forbes the main event, but we'll stream it all together. The audience at home won't even know we switched venues unless they're paying attention to your announcers. These are wild ideas and wild times, but fellas, what we're doing right now, we're in 3 different places making one show. This can work, but people got to think.
That's a great idea. I would never have occurred to me to use different venues, but again, that cuts down the amount of people in each one. That's a great idea.
I mean, it's a possibility for how to do it. I can tell you, whoever's going to figure this out is going to be named Dana White. And one thing you can promise your kids is they are going to read about this man in the textbooks in college someday.
That's true. That's very true. Let me ask you, Chael, because I thought about this a lot. And this is how my ADD works. It comes out of left field. You know, nowadays with the shit talking at an all-time high, I want to know from you, because you were one of the originals but you're one of the originals in the sense where you did it well, really well.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? It's where other guys, no, but seriously, you do it so well. But other guys tried and just fell flat. So as one of the originals, do you see there being a line that you should not cross? There's guys, Covington and whatever, or anybody in general, whoever mentions somebody's family or religion, I feel it's way too far. You've done things in the past with Anderson Silva, but holy shit, it was funny with the steak and it was fucking so funny that it was it didn't feel like malicious. It didn't
like
feel. It felt like that. But you say
I appreciate that. And Matt, yeah, there's for sure a line, 100%. And in fairness, that line does move. I mean, to remind you, Elvis Presley, when he was on stage and would do a little jig at the time, a little shake of the hips, that was like the dirtiest thing that anybody had ever seen. Now, that would be below G-rated standards in now's times. I would encourage some of these guys to just make sure that they have a code. Whatever your code is, display it and then follow the code. My code was a little different. One of the reasons I could get away with it, I only went for guys that were above me. They either had to be bigger than me in size or above me in the rankings or the champion when I'm, ranked number 2 or something along these lines. I didn't just spread it to everybody. It wasn't venom everywhere. It wasn't to different genders. It wasn't to people that were beneath me. That doesn't necessarily mean that's what everybody else has to do, but I would share with you, as long as you follow that, as long as you're not a bully at all, as long as you don't pick on somebody that's lower than you, for the most part, you're going to be okay. But there is a fine line and there's a dance there. And one thing about those attention and those headline grabbing things, it's fame, and fame is a drug. And at some point, you will do anything to get your fix. And when it's as simple as going to social media and pushing a button, all of a sudden the world's looking at you. That's where some of those mistakes made. Calm down, think it through just a little bit, have a code, advertise your code to the world, but stay within it.
Right. That's a great way to put it. Just going after people higher up on the ladder. Like, no one thinks you're a bully if you're going after Anderson Silva. No one thinks you're a bully if you're going after John Jones.
Oh, 100%. It's so funny. I don't know if you remember this, Chael. I remember it clearly. We were in a sauna. It was myself, Pete Dragosel, you, and your black trainer, the gentleman I think you're talking about. My guy's, he's like my size, right? Yes? Yep. The Muay Thai guy. We were in there, and you were, oh, no, I'm sorry. It was before the Matt Hughes fight. Because you were saying to me, hey, he goes, I feel that you promoted this thing brilliantly. Because I was on there calling him, I thought he's a dick and this and that. So you were telling me how you thought I did great. You left the thing. And I go to my buddy Drago, I go, holy fuck, man, I don't think you realize I wasn't acting at all. I really don't like this motherfucker. But you were like, you sold this thing brilliantly. It was all you, the way you did this, you delivered that. And I'm like, man, I just really think the guy's a dick. I'm not as smart as you, Chael. I can't fucking pull this shit off the way you do.
Yeah, but that was such a big deal. Like, Matt Hughes was this untouched entity at that time. I mean, he was the fair-haired child of the UFC. He had the blessing of the Fertittas and Dana directly, and you came out and told the world, man, this guy's a dick. And I remember, as simple as that statement was, the whole world's like, I know what that means. I know some dicks myself that if I could get away with fighting them, I would. We happen to be in business where Matt does get to fight him. I get it. I'm on board.
That was great, man. Well, I appreciate that. I remember that like it was yesterday. It's just a funny moment that came back to me. Anyway,
right, well, listen, man, this was Chael. It's always good to see you. You sound great, and I hope if your event goes off, I hope it's great. And if they push it back, I'm sure it'll be great too whenever they move it to.
I will take a camera, set it up, take my shirt off, and wrestle a mop before this event doesn't go down. Sunday, 6 p.m. Eastern, UFC Fight Pass. And by the way, guys, I got to tell you, you guys are very good with timing. It's not just you noticing that all the air sucked out of the room. You guys aren't quite bringing the energy either. I think I'm going to take my ball and go elsewhere.
No, we had Dean Thomas for 40 minutes first. This is like the longest episode we've done.
Oh, Jimmy, don't let him break your balls. Fuck all these.
That's a little warm-up. Like